That's right. You're listening to another episode of the co-main event mixed martial arts podcast. I'm Chad Dundas. That's Ben Folks. We're both longtime MMA journalists, and for the last 14 years, we've been meeting here every week to break down all the action in the wild, weird, and occasionally wonderful world of mixed martial arts. Ben, it is hot. It is smoky outside here in beautiful Missoula, Montana. I don't know, man. I'm starting to feel the dog days of summer doldrums. The sort of like, I feel like I'm dragging ass through the day.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is that you could use something to spruce up your days, something to pick you up a little bit. What I'm hearing you say is that I should send a stripper inside a cake to your house. Did I hear correctly?
We're gonna have to schedule that. Gonna have to schedule that carefully. But
listen, I'll just say, I know some people I could contact about this. They're not super reliable scheduling wise, but eventually a stripper will show up inside a baked good at your house.
Any baked good?
Listen, there's certain things I can't promise, and so I'm not going to promise. But I will say, maybe the anticipation, maybe the doubt around the whole thing will help keep you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
Jar you into some. I can hear it in your voice. There's a languid torpor in your voice.
Yeah, I would say that's a great way to describe it. Languid torpor.
There's a malaise. There's an indolence that has set in over there, and we got to do something about it.
Is this what you do? Is that how you pick yourself up?
Yeah.
When you're feeling down?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm telling you what, you don't know what gender the stripper is going to be. You don't know how into it they're going to be. You don't know if they will have had any prior experience whatsoever. Sometimes it seems like they're mainly there to steal your silverware. But that's part of the excitement, Chad.
Well, if they come in here looking to lift stuff, they're going to be disappointed. I hope that that's not their game. I hope they're not running that particular scam. They're not going to find much in here of value.
You know, if I really wanted to lift your spirits, I would send somebody over there to pop out of a cake and then ask you what you think of the Grizzly football team's chances this fall. And then they would just sit back and pretend to listen.
Yeah. How much am I paying? Am I paying per hour for this, or
that's a service that you would actually appreciate?
Yeah. And less than 1 month till kickoff. So we're all very excited about that. Another thing that we could potentially be excited about, that's my segue here. Late last week, Jake Paul and Nikisa Bidarian's most valuable promotions announced that they were absorbing the venerable old PFL here in the MMA world. And that has the potential to shake things up a little bit. We talked about it last week on the Power Hour over behind the Patreon paywall, and we figured it made sense to revisit it here on the proper, especially after Friday night's PFL event, which was obviously the first one since this merger, since the absorption. You got to think Jake Paul and Nikisa Bidarian and the team at MVP probably couldn't have had anything to do with this event, just given proximity. They probably didn't have a chance to get in there and start tinkering with PFL, but they were there. They showed up, showed their faces on the PFL broadcast, and signaling somewhat of a new era there for that company. I wanted to start things off with this question that came to us from listener Turk Keys Ali Sheik.
Okay.
See what they did there?
Yeah.
That's four words. Four words. Turk Keys Ali Sheik.
I see. This is the thing, is that spelling-based jokes, the kind of jokes where we have to tell people how it appears in the email. Our listeners love this.
Yeah. I mean, I do appreciate the phonetic spelling, though. That does always help.
Yeah.
They write in to say, well, so much for MVP MMA sailing into exile like Odysseus at the end of a very mediocre movie. Sorry,
what?
Ben.
Fuck you, Turk Keys Ali Sheik. How dare you?
Hey, that's shots fired over here.
Yeah.
Now that MVP MMA has a roster to build cards with, and given their existing broadcast partnerships and Jake Paul's media pull, are we going to experience a world with two mainstream North American MMA promotions? This is potentially, obviously, the most exciting part of this whole thing. We talked about this when MVP had their debut show, Rousey versus Carano, earlier this year. Everyone was wondering what kind of shape or form an MVP MMA promotion would take moving forward. We didn't know what they wanted that to look like, how many shows, if any, they wanted to do, where they would be getting their talent. And now we have answers to at least one of those questions. They're going to get their talent from the PFL. And so on Friday, you and I both seemed somewhat bullish on this development. I remained so, just thinking that, the problem with MVP was that they didn't have any fighters, but they're great at promotion. And the problem with PFL is that they had a ton of talented fighters and were terrible at promotion. So is this two great tastes that taste great together?
It could be. It could. It does seem like there's the elements there where it's like a couple different puzzle pieces that might fit well together to address one another's needs. I also, though, it was hard for me not to think right away about how the PFL just had this event with Usman Nurmagomedov, Jake Paul going to show up with his late 90s ass hat.
Yeah, what's going on? I mean, Jake Paul, he has his own sense of style, and I doubt that you and I are not the demographic for this style. Let's just say that. He looks like an 8th grader suddenly got rich, which I mean that's actually what he is, right?
Yeah.
So it fits in a way.
That is actually maybe the most accurate thing I've ever heard said about him. Because also, like an 8th grader suddenly getting rich and having it have something to do with sports, very quickly convinced himself that he could play in the NFL. Just right away, just was kind of like, you know what I should do. But you had this PFL event where you have Usman Nurmagomedov go out there, look fucking good, get himself a finish in round 1. Jake Paul going to stand out there in his 90s ass hat, get on the mic, make himself part of the show and everything. And at first, you're looking at it, at least I was looking at it, and I'm kind of going like, all right, I'm seeing what could be done here. With Jake Paul involved, he's bringing a little bit more attention. You got Usman Nurmagomedov, you got Dakota Decheva, you got some people over there. Jake Paul is going to bring some media eyes wherever he goes. So like maybe there's something that can be done. There's some business they could do there. But then you also hear like, okay, that's Usman Nurmagomedov's last fight.
Yeah.
Dana White is over there.
Under contract, not his last fight in the world.
Right. That's his last fight with this current PFL deal. And then you also hear Dana White over there in Serbia, where being asked about, like, are you interested in signing Usman Nurmagomedov? And he's kind of with his sly smile, being like, maybe, and you're going to go on, okay.
Well, he and I'll tell you what, we have returned to the era where Dana White will post a smiley face emoji.
Yep.
Because that was another thing he did over the weekend, which it's a step in the right direction as far as I'm concerned. Back when Dana White had to post smiley face emojis, it was because there was competition out there.
Well, and see, that's the thing, is that on one hand, you're going, hey, this is the kind of shit fighters haven't really had on their side negotiating wise in a while. I would argue maybe if you're going to capitalize on that, you shouldn't have as your manager the broker, the UFC's chosen broker who just appears to be a manager as the guy representing your interests. But whatever, you have this thing that has been missing for a while, where you've got the possibility for somebody to be a big time free agent who has made their name somewhere else, and the UFC has to actually get out the checkbook and go get them, rather than just relying on the farm system of Dana White's Contender Series and the Ultimate Fighter, which, by the way, Chad, has been going on this entire fucking time.
Yeah, it has.
I sent you a clip where Michael Bisping brings in a bunch of little people to prank Daniel Cormier's team, and you're just like, okay, so holy shit, this show has been ongoing under all of our noses this entire time. No, Paramount Plus don't even give a damn about trying to let you know that. Nobody else is talking about it at all, except for I see his clip, and I'm like, oh, okay, so they're doing shit like that. I definitely don't need to watch it then. That's what's going on over there. Cool. I guess I should have assumed that. Anyway, that the UFC has gotten used to that being just like what funnels the talent in. It's been a while since they've been like, all right, we need to go pay big money to get somebody away from some competing promotion, somebody who we think could come right in and do some big shit for us. That used to happen more often. That's how you really get paid, is you jump from one organization to another. Somebody else has to pay big money to lure you away. And so that now looks like a possibility in a way that we haven't seen in a little while. So good for the fighters, but also just like we were saying about MVP, when, hey, they had that first event, you had a couple youngish fighters. You got Salahdine, Parnasse, you got Robelis, Despaigne, you got these guys who come out of it and you're thinking, okay, we could build with these guys, and the UFC just goes and signs them both right away after your event.
Yeah.
And so I'm going like,
probably not a coincidence.
Yeah. So it's like, good for the fighters, good that they can get that thing, good for like the competition element, I think, and just any signs of the UFC actually giving a shit are good.
Yeah. But so one of the things that happened that I wanted to bring up is obviously Dana White was asked about this, and he gave his typical answer where he was like, we're not worried about them. We are in a different stratosphere, I think is what he said. He's like, they're not really even our competition. I wish them the best. I'm paraphrasing, but that was sort of what he said.
I don't think he wishes them the best.
I mean, I don't think that either. But he's saying that, and yet, as you said, we had these two free agent signings over the weekend and last week, Robelis Despaigne and Nasruddin Parnasse, both snapped up quick, fast, one after the other by the UFC. And then now you got Dana White sending out smiley face emojis in regards to Usman Nurmagomedov. And if they're not sweating them, it sure seems like they're making moves to try to limit what they can do, limit what MVP can do.
Yeah, they're not exactly giving them a whole lot of runway to work with, and which is understandable. I mean, it's also, the UFC should be in the business of trying to go get the best fighters.
Yes, they should.
I mean, that's the whole idea. That's why I saw today where I think Dana White talking to Oscar Willis, where he was just like talking about Francis Ngannou and just again being like, so glad to let that guy go. I couldn't wait to let him go to PFL. First of all, you guys tried like hell to re-sign him. You made a big deal about how you were going to make him the highest paid heavyweight in the history of the company. You said that. I don't think you did that because you were so glad to get rid of the guy. But anyway, even if that was the case, he is still the lineal MMA heavyweight champion, and you're kind of just telling us, don't give a shit who's good. It doesn't matter, which is crazy because that's supposed to be your whole shit. But like now you can say like the UFC should be trying to go get these guys. But if I'm PFL and MVP in this new venture, I'm going like, we do need to hold on to some people. Yeah. Because we don't have a ton. We don't have a ton of people that anyone's heard of or anybody has developed an opinion about. We can't afford to just start losing them all. And then it's like, do you get into these bidding wars that really eat away into whatever this investment money you got to get you off the ground is? You don't want to spend it all just trying to keep the existing PFL roster together.
Yeah, especially with Usman Nurmagomedov, who, if he is the first person to profit off this merger, would be obviously fantastic for him, just to sort of be around, right place, right time for that guy. Mm-hmm. I think more than just like signing him to make sure they're keeping these PFL guys around to have as promotional assets, the optics would be bad. Yeah. The optics would be bad if you start the PFL and you're talking about, all the stuff you're going to do, you're going to accelerate and change the business, all this stuff that they're saying. The optics would be bad if you had this fight with maybe your best fighter and then he immediately turned around and signed with the UFC. That would put a little bit of a damper on public perception in terms of your future in the sport and your ability to like put out a high a high profile, high quality product. So I'd open the checkbook if I were them. I'd open the checkbook for Nurmagomedov, and again, good for him if that's what happens. And on top of that, we have some anecdotal evidence to suggest that the UFC is not just going to be paying guys a ton, right? Like they, up to this point in the WME TKO era, they have been very budget conscious. And so if you're MVP, you probably can maybe outbid them for Nurmagomedov. The question is just like, how much is he going to get?
And and I think it would be really interesting, and maybe we'll hear something about this. There's a TKO earnings call later today, but maybe we'll hear something about the idea that, like, if you go to TKO, the parent company, the shareholders, everybody, and be like, hey, listen, we do need to spend a little bit more money than anticipated battling this new entrant into the space. So that might affect the next couple quarters or whatever. And how many of them would be sitting there going, wait a minute, I thought the whole thing about why this was supposed to be such a good business to get into was that you guys owned the entire sport. I thought that, keeping fighter pay low, that was one of the big promises. That was, we weren't going to have to start spending more money to pay these fighters. And now you're coming here and you're telling me, Jake Paul and PFL went and got a whole bunch of venture capital money or whatever, and they're coming for our shit. And so now it's going to cost us a little more. That wasn't the deal,
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think a lot of this is going to hinge on the kind of broadcast deal that MVP can come up with moving forward. This is another thing we talked about on Friday. Again, just optics wise, above and beyond everything else. Like if you're coming into the sport and trying to make a big splash and say that you are going to be a competitor to the UFC, and then you sign a broadcast deal with rumblefish.com or whatever is out there, like, again, not great optics. If you come out here and tell us you're going to be on Netflix twice a month or something like that, that's much better. That looks much better for you.
Yes, it does.
Remember, you're listening to the Co-Main Event podcast proper. This show drops every Monday afternoon for free in your timelines and podcast libraries. Make sure you're subscribed to the show. You won't have to go looking for us. We'll just show up every week in your little library there. You won't have to go looking. Another way to make sure you don't miss an episode is to head over to our website, comainevent.com. Sign up for the newsletter. That way we email you whenever a new episode comes out. We promise we're not going to fill your inbox with junk, but, who knows? Maybe you'll get the occasional special offer or news update for your trouble. As a reminder, we're still a completely independent operation. No corporate overlords, no fat cats getting fed. The discourse remains unfettered. There is literally no one to stop us from saying whatever we want to say. Should be terrifying.
Wish you would try to stop us. Wish you would try to fetter the discourse.
Do us a solid. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. And if video is more your thing, come follow us over on YouTube at Co-Main Event Podcast. If you really want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/co-main event. That's where the serious shit happens. We are over there dropping bonus episodes almost every day of the week. There's the live chat. There's the power hour. There's doing the damn thing. We got a movie club episode about to come out. We have fun over there, man. We like to think it's the best deal in MMA. We think you'll love it. We think you'll have fun. That's patreon.com/co-main event. A ton of handy tiers of patronage you could sign up for. And while you're over at comainevent.com signing up for the newsletter, we got merch over there. We got a store all designed in partnership with our guy Johnny Ashcroft from Portland, Oregon. He is an outstanding graphic designer. If you need design work done, check him out at studiosuperconductor.com or on Instagram at studiosuperconductor. Right now, like we always do about this time, let's do a little bit of listener mail.
Listener mail.
First piece of listener mail this week comes to us from Mr. Freeze. I believe Batman villain, I guess. I'm guessing there, Mr. Freeze.
Was that a Mr. Freeze or was that a Dr. Freeze?
Oh, it's Mr. Freeze over there in Batman. Yeah.
Okay.
But Mr. Freeze may also be an ice cream truck driver. I don't know.
Okay.
Mr. Freeze writes in to say, I know you guys talked about Anthony Smith's DV arrest on the Power Hour, but did you see the update from his wife? Curious if this changes your perception of the incident or not. Full quote unquote statement, i.e., Instagram post here for context. Quote, there's not a lot I can say right now. I love Anthony with every ounce of my being. He is a good man, a great dad, and an incredible husband who loves us endlessly. Anyone that knows him can attest to that. They made a mental health struggle into something it wasn't. I'm safe and always was safe. He would never hurt me, ever. I called for help to protect him from himself. End quote. On one hand, isn't this how it usually goes? Even Dana White's wife came out with something like this after the slap heard round the Mexican nightclub. Not like this would be the first time we saw the abused defending the abuser. On the other hand, you're saying you called the police for help with a mental health episode and they ended up making it way worse. Yep, we've seen that before too, but with way worse outcomes. What say you, gentlemen? Now, again, we could get into another "Are you fucking kidding me?" here because of stuff Dana White said about this situation. Dana White came out and said that could happen to anyone, referring to this.
He meant the arrest part, the arrest for domestic violence. He didn't mean domestic violence itself.
Yeah.
By the way, I did also just look up the trigonometry, and one of the first things I saw was their conversation about what the data actually shows about climate change. You want to guess what they think the data shows?
They're probably not that worried about it.
Anyway, I did just hear somebody talking about the Spokane fires on National Public Radio this morning saying there is no such thing as fire season anymore. So... The point that Mr. Freeze brings up here, I get it. Because we have heard like a pattern before, right? It's like the person who is on the other end of the domestic violence incident and arrest coming out to be like, no, you guys got it all wrong. It wasn't like that. And yeah, we have definitely seen that happen in situations where we're going, okay, that's you after the fact being like, you've decided you're going to stick around through this and you don't want it to be bad. And so you're trying to help the person out. And maybe you realize for one reason or another, you got reason to go help them out. We saw that with John Jones, his fiance. We saw that with Dana White, his wife, all that. We've seen it. That's a thing that does happen. That is part of the dynamic that sometimes plays out here. So that in itself is not surprising. And it also, I don't know exactly how to square this with what we saw from like the arrest report. We'd have to know more about the situation. It's tough to know. But if you did tell me like, hey, he was having a mental health episode, I was trying to call the police for help and they just showed up and did the thing police know how to do, arrest somebody. I mean, and granted, it could have been worse. They also have been known to show up during a mental health episode and shoot people. So if they just showed up, and instead of, they're not showing up as like licensed counselors or something, they're showing up with handcuffs. And so if they just took him in and were like, hey, we showed up to a domestic violence call, we got to take somebody, that too, I could imagine, right? Like, and yet it is hard, like all this stuff that we've heard where it's like he's forcing her into a car, he's telling her that he'll kill her, trying to hit her with the car. Like those are the things that he's accused of while he's staying there in court. And to have then this other version where it's like, no, it's a mental health struggle and they are making it into something it wasn't. I was like, okay, but did that other stuff happen? Because if so, I mean, it might have been happening in the context of a mental health struggle, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? And especially whenever there's this kind of thing happening with a fighter, we always return, especially like an older fighter who spent a bunch of years in this sport, right? We always return to some version of the same conversation where we go, is this brain trauma showing up? I hate when we just very casually throw it off like, oh, LOL, CTE. And it's like, first of all, plenty of people can act like assholes without CTE. They do it every day. Plenty of people do it. But also, if it is CTE is making him do these things, we should be fucking concerned about that.
Yeah.
That should not be a like, oh yeah, what do you expect? You know, you spend a bunch of years as a cage fighter, you're gonna end up as a deranged maniac who's a danger to himself and those around him. Like, that should be a big fucking problem if that's what we're saying. But you also just wonder, like, what's going on in the guy's life otherwise, and you know, at what role does fighting and whatever his relationship is to it now play into that. Like, it's all, we always end up wondering about how those connections work, but we have a tough time talking about it, and we have a tough time sort of untangling that.
Yeah. Especially with a guy like Anthony Smith, who has always portrayed himself in public as far as his fighting persona as being a really smart, articulate, good guy. And so to read or hear about an alleged incident like this with him is, like you said, not that you want to blame it all on a fighting career, but it does raise some red flags, right? So it is a tough one to stomach, and I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens legally speaking, and how we all move on from here. But it did, if you read the reports of what did happen, doesn't sound great.
Yeah,
doesn't sound great. Next question this week comes to us from Stacy Jones, who writes, I might be a little out of touch with the current MMA landscape, but after UFC 329, there are two obvious fights to make, and I'm surprised no one seems to be talking about them. The first is Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title. Max delivered one of the most vicious last-minute knockouts ever against the current champion. How could this matchup not have an incredible build-up and actually deliver on fight night, and wouldn't Gaethje want to avenge the loss? As for McGregor, a fight with Paddy Pimblett feels like the most logical option. You've got two charismatic UK stars with close enough skill levels and styles to make it genuinely intriguing. I would give Pimblett the chance to absorb whatever remaining star power McGregor has left and propel him to a new level, and I can see Conor accepting it as a winnable fight against someone with a name. Please enlighten me if there are drawbacks to these matchups that I'm missing, but let's not pretend there's any real meritocracy or meaningful rankings in the sport anymore. P.S. I wish Max had the charisma and savageness in that post-fight interview to just look at McGregor limping away on his twisted leg and say to the audience, what the fook was that?
That would have been good, honestly.
Yeah, it would have been good, but Max Holloway's just way too nice of a guy for that.
Yeah.
Even against an opponent.
I mean, honestly, these are both great ideas.
Yeah.
These would be both great fights. Yeah. The Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje, they got a history, all the things you mentioned here. It would be an interesting fight to make. It's also one you can talk Justin Gaethje into, because I think, like, if I'm Justin Gaethje and they're saying to me, like, all right, congratulations, you finally won the title. You're not even sure how many more of these fights you want to do now that you're the champ. How about Arman Sarukian? You're going to be like, bro, okay, I guess if I have to, but Arman Sarukian gonna eat him up, man.
Yeah.
He just is. And that's a bad matchup for him in so many ways. And you're basically, it's like the pro wrestling thing of, like, you got to drop the title to this new hot kid. And instead, if it was like Max Holloway, you know, some peer on peer violence, you had one of those memorable moments together in UFC history at UFC 300. You could get a lot of people interested in that rematch. Like, there's every reason in the world to book that fight. The Conor McGregor Paddy Pimblett one also makes sense. Again, a lot of what they are willing to do with Conor McGregor is going to depend on if they sign a contract extension with him, or if this is genuinely his last fight. But either way, you can kind of talk yourself into thinking, like, the UFC might give him Paddy Pimblett, thinking Paddy will beat this version of him, and it'll be good for Paddy going forward. You could see McGregor taking that fight because Paddy still has enough of a name, but also you could talk yourself into looking at Paddy on tape and being like, I could knock this guy out. This guy is not that good a striker. Mm-hmm. So, like, I could see making that one, and, like, just like regionally, yeah, you know, Liverpool versus Dublin, I think you could get a whole lot of people excited about that one, to the extent you could still get people excited about a McGregor fight at all. Here's what I want to ask, Chad. What's up with McGregor's knee? Is the shit hurt or not?
Well,
have you seen him out here?
I saw some people linking to doctors on YouTube. YouTube doctors breaking down the footage of Conor McGregor being up and around and being like, yeah, that's if you blow out your ACL and your meniscus, you wouldn't be doing that. You wouldn't
Did
be
he
doing
have the
that.
surgery or not? Do we know?
Nobody knows. Well, he made reference to the terrific regenerative powers of modern science in one of his
but
recent posts.
With his history, that could mean a lot of things.
It definitely could. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Conor McGregor's knee.
He's doing the rowing machine, Chad. He's out there just crushing the rowing machine.
Yeah, which doesn't seem like would be your exercise of choice if you had just had like double ligament knee surgery.
Because that would be another part of my calculation in trying to determine how realistic a Conor McGregor-Paddy Pimblett fight is do you want Paddy Pimblett sitting around for a year or more waiting for Conor McGregor to come back? And yet, if I'm looking at the man on the goddamn rowing machine, I'm going, why do we need to wait a year?
Yeah. Regenerative powers of modern science at work. That's the thing. It's like if we believe the initial timetable that we were given for McGregor's return, not considering the rowing machine, then it doesn't really make any sense to even talk about a fight with Paddy Pimblett because you got to think, like you said, you don't want Paddy sitting out that long. You got to think he'll
get 400 pounds if you let Paddy sit around for a year. You can't do that.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Make welterweight though. Conor probably want to fight him at welterweight, so
I mean,
a little bit.
Paddy will lock in and then show back up with abs, no matter how fat he gets. But it is amazing how quickly after a fight that man can blow up. You see him out there, in the ANP, in the corner mart, taking a picture with the fans. He's got his fanny pack on, whatever, and you just like. The man looks like he's gained 60 pounds in 2 weeks. It's incredible. And then he's still going to show up and look like he's in incredible shape. And that seemed like the weight cut was even particularly hard for him. So more power to him. But yeah, I mean, I'd just be sitting around just being like, all right, well, I mean, first of all, one thing, if you do get Conor McGregor back in there and he faces Paddy Pimblett, we're not doing that dry ice mist shit anymore, Chad.
Canvas was wet.
Took him a couple weeks to remember it, to think about it. But he showed up on Twitter afterwards and be like, oh, by the way, just came to me. The reason Hurt blew out my knee, canvas was all wet. No contest. It's a no contest now, you guys.
I will say this to Paddy Pimblett as a gentleman of a certain age. Paddy, you're 31 years old. The window for you to get super fat between fights and then lose it all by the time you have to get in your training camp and cut weight for fight night, that window is closing, sir.
That doesn't last forever, man.
Doesn't last forever, man. So I guess enjoy it while you can, but just a word to the wise. You can't do that forever. Everybody knows we have both been somewhat complimentary about Arman Tsarukyan's ability to make himself a thing. Because, a year or so ago, we were sitting here saying, why it can't be you, right, troll boy.
Yep.
That Arman Tsarukyan was not going to get the lightweight title fight. Then this man, through his own crazy behavior, his own loose cannon behavior.
His frankly antisocial behavior.
Yeah. He goes out there. He has basically been in the news ever since. And now it kind of seems like he has made himself into a thing that could potentially be a viable option for a title shot. If they feed Max Holloway to Arman Tsarukyan, I will be mad.
You mean Justin Gaethje?
No, this guy wasn't this. You brought it up, feeding Max Holloway and Arman Tsarukyan. You said it a few minutes ago.
Well, I'm talking about having I was talking about having Arman Tsarukyan just go in and fight Justin Gaethje.
Not that either. That'll also make me mad.
I mean, if we were still seriously doing the sport that we claim to be doing,
we're seriously doing the sport
where winning the fights gets you to a certain point where you get to fight for the title because you won all the fights, then Arman Tsarukyan would fight for the title. Yeah. If we were doing that version of the sport, then obviously he deserves to fight for the title at this point. And yet I can see the UFC doesn't seem to be in a hurry to book Justin Gaethje and Arman Tsarukyan, even though that would be the one that makes good sense. If it's Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway, I could see making the case for that one. Didn't they come out and say Justin's going to fight and it's not going to be anybody he's fought before? So maybe that would rule out Max Holloway, but I could see making a good case because clearly we're not doing that other version of the sport. And we haven't been for some time. So there's no reason to kid ourselves about it. Did you see Arman Tsarukyan was back on his bullshit? He grappled an Indian influencer. All I saw was him suplexing this dude, slamming him down, and was just like, what does this man's eye calendar look like? When he pulls it up, you got your notices like, oh, pay the energy bill. Don't forget that. Kid has a dentist appointment, 11 a.m. on Tuesday.
Go by Justin, get you that truck.
Yeah. And then it's just like, what fucking rando am I grappling this weekend? If a week goes by and he's not out there throwing somebody around on some kind of like stream or some kind of event you never heard of before, does Arman Tsarukyan just feel lost? Is he just that Pablo Escobar meme? Is he just wandering around the backyard, wandering around the estate, just being like, the fuck do I do?
I would love to say he's got to keep busy to keep himself out of trouble, but that's not true. That's not what's happening.
He could do both.
Yeah.
He could do both.
He's multitasking. Everyone at the top of the lightweight pecking order is too likable and elderly to be fed to Arman Tsarukyan. That's what I'm saying. I respect what you've done, Troll Boy, but you still need to wait a little longer.
For what? Well, what needs to happen?
I don't want him to make me sad.
Let's just get it over with. That's my point of view on it. Let's stop running from this. Let's find out if he's going to be the UFC champion, and then we can live with that reality. We can save the limbs of some influencers, and let's get to the shit. We've been circling around here for a while. We've been trying to figure out, like, is Arman Tsarukyan actually going to be that guy? He might be. Let's find out.
Last question this week comes to us from Al Smith, who writes in, hello. Okay. So, we get a little bit what we're dealing with here. First time, long time, listening since 2015-ish, Patreon since 2020. Thanks, Al. We appreciate that. What's the most excited you've felt discovering a, quote, well-rounded fight fan element about a fighter? I've played hardcore bands for years, and anytime I see a fighter, writer, pro wrestler, athlete display a passing interest in punk, I act like a clapping seal. While I'm here, I should probably confess that the CME has an unofficial shout out in one of my band's song titles and themes, LOWAG, Land of Wind and Ghosts.
Oh, nice.
So that's a pretty good song title. Also, I should probably ask for a Discord code, because hearing that some North American CME folks are getting down with the best sport on the planet, Australian rules footy, I want to know everything about that. So it was recently, just in case people are listening to this who aren't members of the Discord community, it was naturally, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but it turns out that there are Australian rules football players in the CME Patreon community.
But there are Australian rules football American League players. Like, they play in an American domestic league of Australian rules football, which that kind of broke my brain, just the combination of words. But we learned that. And if you told me we had one, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. We have two, and they played against each other. That's crazy.
Yeah. You guys have been a positive reprieve in my life for ages, and I apologize it's taken so long to communicate that. Carn the Shinboners, North Melbourne Football Club. Okay. P.S. The band is called Geld, G-E-L-D, and the record's LOWAG features on, quote, Soft Power and Beyond the Floor. So I think if you want to go check out Geld, G-E-L-D, you probably can. Al Smith's band. Well, Al, just you wrote in, man. You don't have to apologize for it taking so long. We're just happy that you got here. Just happy that you got to this point.
As for the question about what really gets your attention when fighters particularly say something, reveal some interests that make you go like, oh, they're more well-rounded than I might have thought, and I'm invested in them in a way I wasn't before. I mean, it is how we ended up with, frankly, I'm not going to call it a mistake or a misstep of the CME book club, but a thing people will bring up every once in a while is how excited we got about Sean O'Connell when he told us that he had written a novel. I'm still excited for him. I still like Sean O'Connell. I've talked to him on a number of occasions. I still think, like Sean O'Connell, interesting guy, different from your typical pro fighter in a whole lot of ways. And I respect the hell that he wrote and self-published a novel. Just genre-wise, it wasn't for us, and it was long. And we appreciate a lot of CME people reading it, but that was the one where I was just like I appreciated how he used his post-fight interview time to tell the world about his novel. He wasn't like trying to call out the next opponent. He wasn't begging for a bonus or anything. He said, guys, I wrote a book. Please go read it. It's called this. You can get it here. And I was just like, okay, hell yeah. That's something that we have not encountered very often in UFC post-fight interviews.
Yeah, that actually is the one I was going to say too, but I didn't know if I should, because it might bring up bad memories to people in the audience who we told we were going to read the book and do a book club for, and then a bunch of people actually read the book and we did not.
I read a hefty portion of the book.
You know what I like is when Matt Brown posts videos of himself shredding on guitar.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's a good one too.
That is good. He's good too. He's out there doing it. He's retired now and everything, but it gives me great joy, the film industry career that Keith Jardine has gone on to. Yeah. And when I see him pop up in something, especially as just like a scary looking heavy and something, and I'm just like, there's never this was what this man was born for. He's perfect in those roles.
It's perfect for it. All right, that is going to do it for listener mail this week. If you have a question, comment, and concern that you would like to air to the podcast in future weeks, just go to our website, comainevent.com, and click the link in the top right-hand corner of the screen that says email the podcast. That'll get you in touch with us. Dana White said twice during the last week that he is, quote, in the holy shit moments business, and that he hoped, even though he couldn't name a single fight on the card, he hoped that UFC Serbia last Saturday night would deliver some of those holy shit moments. Well, the UFC went out there and set a record for first round stoppages at the UFC Serbia show over the weekend. Does that signal what we're doing here now? We'll talk about that right after this. Ben, I have to admit, it did catch my ear twice last week when Dana White referred to being in the holy shit business, that his job is to deliver holy shit moments to the world. He said it once at the UFC Serbia pre-fight press conference, and he said it again during his appearance on the Triggernomics podcast. And I don't necessarily know that I feel like it was a coincidence that he said those two things twice, because he said that one thing two times. That is not the same thing as promoting good MMA fights, which was the thing that they used to talk about a lot with the UFC. They used to say, we give the fans the fights they want to see. Their whole shit was about booking good, exciting MMA fights. But now we're saying we are in the holy shit business, used it to justify his promotion of Power Slap, and in a way, kind of used it to justify the fact that he didn't know anyone fighting on the UFC Serbia card. So I don't know if I'm making mountains out of molehills here, but I wanted to ask you the question, to have Dana White start to refer to what he does as providing holy shit moments. Does that seem to you like a significant shift from how he used to talk about his old job, or in fact what his job actually is?
Yeah, it is interesting, especially because I couldn't help but like kind of connect it to what we saw that UFC Fight Night Serbia card, where, and especially the part that everybody was focusing on, where they're like, look at all these first round finishes.
Yeah.
And as we've seen other promoters do that, where one way you can sometimes get a lot of first round finishes is to book a lot of mismatches.
Yeah.
Now, here's one where, like, this is a fight card where you did see kind of more than usual long odds. But like sometimes it would be the big underdog who is going out there and scoring the first round finish. But like that is, if that's what you're trying for, if you're just trying to get big knockouts and like holy shit kind of finish, like quick finishes, you can match make your way to that kind of an event. And is that what we want? Because I did see like fans will get excited about it. They'll kind of praise you for it, be like, oh, wow. But it's also, if you're watching it as a live sports experience, a whole lot of first round finishes means you end up sitting through a lot of non-fighting stuff.
Yeah.
Waiting for the next fight to start. So like there is a downside to it, but it's also like, if the UFC starts to see itself as similar to like what he's talking about with Power Slap, where, hey, we're trying to just create these big moments, which also is something that you hear from like wrestling fans talking.
Yeah.
They're like making fun of the TKO version of WWE. Like, you're just trying to create moments. You're not doing any storytelling. And it makes me wonder, is this a shift towards something where we're going, people don't have an attention span anymore.
Right.
You got to create quick video moments that you can get on social media. And that's how you find some version of success in this new media landscape. Like, all those things seem kind of connected to me.
Yeah, I do wonder if it is a natural side effect of like the social media era and Instagram videos and Facebook videos and things like that. But it kind of suggests to me a tacit, unspoken admission that these fight nights are not great. That like we're not booking fights of any consequence here. Not only does Dana White come to the press conference and can't tell you which fight he is looking forward to the most because he doesn't know any of the fights on the card, but here he is saying like, basically, I hope we just get some highlight footage here, because like that's not the same thing as like booking a good night of fights or booking meaningful fights between good fighters. That's not the same thing. So uh it's a bit of a shift to me. It seems like I'm interested to see if he continues to say stuff like this about what he's doing, because if you were booking a really good night of fights between people that we knew that could have ramifications for the rest of like championship divisions, I don't think you would have to say that. I think you could just say we've got the best fighting the best here.
Yeah. I mean, and especially a fight card like this where it does seem like you're kind of putting on your own version of a regional appeal fight card that people have done before. I mean, you do get like some good moments out of it. Uros Medic goes out there, and after all that talk about where we were so happy for Daniel Rodriguez getting sprung from the Mexican prison to get back in the UFC, and then you go out there and you get knocked out real quick. Uros Medic looked great. So
Yeah, he did.
that's good for him. I heard some people mentioning where they're like, okay, does the broadcast need to focus so much, need to talk so much about Daniel Rodriguez and the Mexican prison thing? How do you not talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing where it's like John Anik, where he got kind of memed when people were like talking about some fighter's custody dispute. And you're like, yeah, that one's a choice. We could leave that one out. We don't need to necessarily talk about that. Hey, where has this guy been? A Mexican prison? Yeah, that one we probably do need to mention. But yeah, you would think that if you're the UFC, I would think you would be more focused on, hey, what's going to work for our TV partner? What's going to help sell tickets? I don't know if it's the holy shit moments just on their own, because if you're trying to tell me I should subscribe to Paramount Plus because you have some holy shit moments, and the way I know you have the holy shit moments is that they're all over social media, why do I need to subscribe then? That's the whole thing. Power slap is just like little clips that find their way into your algorithm. And if you make the unforgivable mistake of lingering on them for 15 to 20 seconds, it's just going to feed you more and more of them. And then you're going to be part of every man, woman, and child watching this shit. But is that a workable plan for the UFC? Because if I'm Paramount Plus, I'm going to gauge this thing by how many subscribers you bring in and how many of them stick around. And if they're all just watching the holy shit moments on Reels or TikTok or Twitter, that doesn't really help me necessarily, does it?
Not at all. But I mean, Paramount Plus isn't posting the full fights either, right? They're just putting the highlights up there. Or at least you have to dig for it to find replays of the entire fights. Yeah, it seems like a yet another symptom or sign of Dana White being kind of checked out, that he can't tell you any fights on the UFC Belgrade fight card, and then also is just sort of like, I just hope we get some holy shit moments from this fight card. And then he goes on the Triggernomics podcast and is super interested to talk about Power Slap and tell us how great Power Slap is. It's the most viewed show ever in the history of time, and everybody understands a slap, even women. It just doesn't, yet again, it just doesn't seem like he's keeping track of his own product very much. So I don't know. That is going to do it for the co-main event podcast this week. Thanks everybody for listening. We'd love it if you'd go sign up over on the Patreon page. We do have fun over there. We'll be there all week. Should come check it out. Patreon.com/co-main event. If you do that, we'll see you tomorrow or Wednesday. If you don't do it, we'll see you right back here next week. Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support. As for right now, we are done. We are through. We are out. How much would it take if I go buy you one of these Jake Paul outfits? If I buy you the like a Gucci check matching shirt and shorts with the motorcycle jacket over the top of it and the Chuck Mindendahl hat, would you wear it?
I mean, I'd give it a try. I'd give it a trial run. I'll put it on. I'll cruise over there. Here's what I'll do. I'll cruise on over to my preferred watering hole. I refer now, of course, to the Town and Country Lounge, where I can count on people to keep it real with me. I'll go down there. I'll meet the crew for some drinks on like a Thursday evening when I know my favorite bartenders are working. I'll walk in wearing it, and I'll just see what they say.
Get the reviews.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's as good a way as any. Maybe Jake Paul should try it.
And if somebody is out here being like, who told the newsboy he should become a b-boy? I'll be like, okay, it's not working. It's not working for me. But I'll give it a go.